Jay was a very bubbly little boy, and he was doing fine until his first day of kindergarten. When he came home, he said to his mother, "Why did God make me with no left arm?" Well, his mother was kind of dreading the day that she would get that question, and she didn't have an answer for him because she had asked herself the same thing and there was no answer. So instead of asking why, she began to ask herself who, what, where, when, and how can I help my son? She took some positive action. She did some research, and she found a high school student who had the same affliction, birth problem that her son did. He also had no left arm, and she contacted him, and they put the boys together for a few hours to visit. And it turns out that this Sean, the high school boy, also played basketball with one arm. So he was an immediate inspiration for Jay. Not only that, but he gave him a sweatshirt that said, 10 fingers are overrated. Well, you can imagine the joy, we might say the light, that came into little Jay's life when Sean showed him that you could go all through school, be in high school, play basketball, and even have a sense of humor about missing a left arm. We're in Lent looking at light and darkness in our lives and the way that Christ is our light and the way that we're light for each other. That's a very clear story. Jay had a dark experience in kindergarten when he realized and the other children pointed out to him that he didn't have an arm. Certainly he knew that, but it hadn't affected him until that moment. His mother, being an instrument of light, asked the right question, not why, but how and who and when and where can I bring light into my son's life? She became an instrument of light and brings in Sean, who of course, by his own witness, through his darkness, was able to be light for the boy, right? He had darkness in his life, but he turned it into a light. Now, this story of light and dark, the mother's darkness and hearing her son becoming upset, and then her advocating for the light, and we can go back and forth. You see how the pattern is there. That's true of all of our lives as well. We're always circulating between light and darkness. We're having dark moments of despair and difficulties, and then we have the light moments of joy and celebration, and we're always moving back and forth in and out of that, in the same way that the sun comes up and goes down, that we have light and dark in our life. We have the tides that come in and go out. This pattern of light and darkness, beginnings and endings, is a part of our lives. Now, we think something's wrong because we say, oh, I want to be in the light all the time. It just doesn't work that way, which gives us our mission. In the light, we celebrate, we thank God, we rejoice, we share our light with others. In the dark, we continue to trust in God that that light of God will continue to come into our life, and we pray. We pray for the light. Sometimes that darkness enables us to reach out to other people, and that becomes our light. So I think many times in life we get disappointed or even afraid when we are in a dark time, as if the light will never return. This is not true. We have Christ, our light, in prayer, that even in the darkness, we see a bit of that light, of that hope that Christ will somehow use this darkness of our life to be light for other people, and that the dawn comes. It's always darkest, as they say, before the dawn. This is true in our spiritual lives as well. So in darkness, we remember the light. In the light, we try to share it with others. This is our pattern. Now, our gospel today gives us a perfect example of how this works with the disciples, or at least an aspect of it, that our lives are the same as theirs. The disciples are, we might say, in the dark about the reality of Jesus's being, the Christ. They heard about it, they see some miracles, they're still not fully convinced. And in the dark, they climb this mountain, and Jesus is transfigured before them. His fullness of his light is revealed to them. And they're so excited in this that Peter says, let's build a tent. I want to stay on the top of the mountain. I want to hold on to this light that I see. But a fog comes. There's a voice of affirmation, and then it starts to get dark again. They climb down the mountain, and we know the rest of the story. They have their doubts. They have their fear. At the crucifixion, they're not remembering the light of the transfiguration. They run away afraid. And then with the resurrection, another light. The pattern. We can't stay on top of the mountain in the light forever. We come down, we go up again. This is what happened to them. But the memory of the light, the recounting of God's blessings, gives the courage to go forward even in the dark. And when we look for the other people in our life who are light to us to give us those blessings, and when we try to be light for other people, that's the essence of who we're about and what's happening to us. But the pattern, the natural rhythm, it's good to be aware of it, that this, in the dark, the light will come. In the light, we prepare for the dark. It's the pattern of our life. So I wanted to give you a moment this morning, rather than talk about Christ being our light, to invite Christ, our light, into your own experience, into those light and dark areas of your life, knowing that they continue to change, but involving God in all the shadows and all the brightness and all the darkness. So if you will indulge me for a moment and just close your eyes. Just take a nice deep breath. We're in God's presence. We're in God's house. We're surrounded by the light of Christ. Just breathe in God's Spirit and breathe out any anxiety or tension you may have. Feel that light of Christ fill you with each breath. What areas in your life are you experiencing as darkness? Where are your fears and doubts most evident? Don't ask the Lord why. Ask who, what, where, when, or how are you helping me, Lord? Who are the faces of the people that God sends into your life to be light? Thank God for those faces and those people. In what areas of your life are you experiencing the bright promise of hope and joy? What is the good news in your life worthy of celebration? Take a moment to thank God for those experiences. Who is the Lord inviting you to help in their darkness? Who needs your help or your prayer? See them surrounded in your prayer by Christ's light. How might you be light for them? What action can you take? Okay, I invite you to gently come back into the church for a moment, if you're still awake with me. In the bulletin, I have those questions, so you can do this, yourself during the week as a prayer. But I'm going to give you a little homework today, okay? Because we like our themes, Christ be our light, to work into our everyday life. So here's something really strange I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to join the 5-Finger Club. Do you know what it is? He says, I don't know and I don't care. Okay, so the 5-Fingered Club is when you're doing something that you normally do, use your non-dominant hand. So that's the hand you don't usually use. For example, when you brush your teeth, use the opposite hand. You'll be surprised how hard it is, okay? Eat with the other hand. Do whatever you want, but just don't drive with the wrong hand, okay? And by the way, you're laughing, but you're supposed to have two hands on the wheel. But that's another homily. All right, so use your non-dominant hand, and you will become immediately uncomfortable and frustrated. I started laughing, and then I got mad, okay? But because it's like, it wakes you up. It wakes you up to the blessing of the hand you use that don't think about it, but it also makes us sensitive to other people who have difficulties, like Jay and Sean, and today we're taking a special collection for the Knights of Columbus for people with disabilities. So when you are working with your non-dominant hand and are feeling uncomfortable, frustrated, or amused, however it hits you, think about people that are in darkness, that are struggling, that are having difficulty, that face physical, and mental, emotional, and spiritual obstacles all the time, that are trying to operate with one hand, with the five-fingered club, okay? And offer that as a prayer, as an awareness. It's called a prayer practice, something that we do that awakens us to a new reality, a new way of seeing, a new way of being. So I offer that to you as a little bit of an experiment, and share it with your family and friends, and see when you feel that uncomfortableness or that challenge, it's an opportunity to pray for someone else who's equally, if not more, challenged in their own way, okay? So you can be a little light in the darkness. So 10 fingers, according to the boys, was overrated, but their 10 fingers are never overrated when we hold them together in prayer, right? When we thank God in the light, or ask for God's help in the dark, or join them together to help someone else so that Christ can be our light.